All right, we're looking into the full moon in Sagittarius arriving June the 11th. Before we get into this, I'm also going to touch on numerology as we are moving into a universal month number 6 in June. And 6 will take us into a more nurturing pace where we may find ourselves slowing down a little bit more and connecting with relationships on a deeper level. From a symbolic standpoint, you can see the way the 6 is drawn, where the bottom portion of the 6 is almost curved in, as it is a beautiful symbolic representation of nurturing. So nurturing self, also nurturing relationships that we care about the most or certain aspects of our life. So you might find in the month of June, the energy slowing down just a little bit more, where you might dip into a more caring and nurturing and compassionate rhythm. This is also very complementary with Cancer as we are moving into Cancer season towards the later portion of the month. This is also a time period where you may find yourself really dipping into relationship sensitivities and nostalgia and connecting more with loved ones. There will also be an emphasis on boundaries of where we are giving away too much of ourselves, or we're not respecting our boundaries, or maybe we have too many boundaries that we need to look at where we can soften our shell a little bit more and let more of life in. So that's going to be the later portion of the month. But looking at this full moon in Sagittarius, this is a welcomed full moon, especially after the full moon in Scorpio that we had previously. However, it still may bring aspects up to the surface. I'm going to talk about some of the shadow aspects that may arise and how to best work with this full moon for your practice. And remembering full moons are a time of illumination. Oh, with that said, I also am going to be uploading a full moon ritual over at the Shadow Project. There is a 7-day free trial where you're welcome to jump in and check it out and see if it's a fit for you. But I'm going to be uploading a full ritual to incorporate into your practice during the full moon. All right, so we're looking at this full moon in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius opposes Gemini in the zodiac calendar. You may find a lot of information pertaining to the lower mind and higher mind of these two polarizing archetypes, where Gemini will tend to focus on the lower mind, which is what is called. Doesn't mean that it's better or whatever, but the lower mind is typically the analytical mind. It's our logical mind. It is being able to decipher life through thought and through analysis and through research and through communication and experiences. And the higher mind is the exploration of philosophy and wisdom, and even the relationship with our higher self and higher information that we can draw upon, if you will. And especially during the 11th day, the 11 being a master number, the full moon falling on this day is going to be very complementary for expanding our consciousness in ways to open up channels for intuitive hits and guidance. So you may find during this full moon, your dreams may open up. You may have more sensitivities. You may have more downloads and insights. So do work with this full moon for almost, I feel, higher wisdom, higher information from the ether, from the cosmos, and also even pulling on information or drawing on information that might come to you through intuitive hits and nudges and insights, as the 11 truly does open up a greater relationship with our higher self, the higher realms, and bringing it down into the practical plane. That being said, the shadow aspects of Sagittarius can include detachment and disassociating from reality and continually chasing something of a quest, if you will, feeling as though there's a quest and a mission while not being grounded in reality. So that could be a shadow aspect also to pay attention to. And I'm going to go deeper into the shadow aspects to incorporate into your practice for release if it resonates with you. But going into the Sagittarius archetype, as I mentioned, we have the polarizations between these two archetypes. Both of them represent dualities. Now, Sagittarius duality has the dualistic nature between the man and the beast, which is the centaur, one representing the intellect, one representing instinct. And so this is why we can find ourselves pulled into two different directions of overthinking, overanalyzing, or wanting concrete thought versus something greater, something more expansive, something that we feel is almost unexplainable, but we can tend to lean towards some of these philosophical, explorational adventures to gain more insight into the unknown, gain more insight into the mysterious. So this could be a shadow aspect of Sagittarius where there's a continual exploration into the mysterious and into the ethereal, where there could be a lack of groundedness into reality. And this can also include spiritual bypassing in some ways, where we will tend to lean towards more of the ethereal experiences or more the spiritual or philosophical without taking moments in our journey to ground down and assess the reality of the particular findings or information to bring it into something more concrete. Some of the archetypes embodied within the Sagittarius archetype will be the archer, the seeker, and the sage. And one of the mottos that Sagittarius can live by is I see the goal, I reach the goal, and then I see another. There can be a burning fire within Sagittarius to continue on a certain quest, a quest of discovery, a quest of adventure, and a quest of seeking one's truth or the truth to some of the greatest mysteries of life. This is why also the Sagittarius archetype can be very philosophical and very wise, seeking again that higher wisdom and higher knowing. When we look at the archer archetype, we have the archer with the bow pointed to truth and possibility, where reality and life is understood through the realms of exploring levels of consciousness and levels of experiences. The sage and the seeker are very closely intertwined, where the sage holds a great deal of wisdom through life experiences and through the ability of internalizing aspects of self for deeper levels of wisdom or uncovering deeper levels of wisdom. The seeker, of course, is very complementary as well, due to the ability of the seeker's need and desire to search for truth and wisdom within life and within many different realms and dimensions of reality. This full moon may illuminate certain aspects within the unconscious or within self of restlessness. There may be a part of ourself that may be awakened to push us beyond our current comfort levels and search and seek into the mysterious realms. Maybe even open up greater channels with our higher self or with the great mysteries of life so that we can be the conduit for understanding and wisdom and exploration into various realms and dimensions and realities, as this is where we can gain a lot of information and insight. Be open to exploring the mysterious and the mystical and even aspects within yourself, as this can be pushing us to venture into certain dimensions of self or into, again, different dimensions of reality. Another aspect that may be illuminated during this full moon can be a bit of a reality check. Where are we losing ourselves in spiritual exploration and spiritual teachings and practices? And where do we need to maybe dial things back to be more realistic and more grounded and even more discerning within the choices that we make, or even in where we might be losing ourselves? One more aspect that may be highlighted during this full moon is because Sagittarius is a fire sign, all fire signs do have a connection with authenticity and inner truth and the fire that burns within our inner spark. An aspect of this full moon that may be highlighted during this time or that you can bring into your internal practice is, where is that fire being held back or being suppressed in some kind of way to experience life, to explore, to express, and maybe even to teach? If you at all feel an urge to teach others, and teaching doesn't have to be by putting yourself out there in a grandiose way, it can be with friends, it can be simply expressing yourself, or even learning something that lights your fire, that gets you excited, where you may be holding yourself back in doing so. This can be a good full moon to break some patterns and barriers and limitations that might be in some way preventing you from moving forward and following your calling. Sagittarius follows Scorpio and precedes Capricorn. We just had an epic full moon in Scorpio, where all the pain and suffering and transmutation is then brought into the ascent for greater wisdom and understanding. From that point, it has moved into Capricorn, where the information is then brought into a spiritual blueprint for spiritual authority and material mastery. So you can see the maybe transition between these three archetypes within your life and how they're playing out right now. And it may give you illumination to what you can release during this full moon, to help you on your journey and prepare you for what's lying ahead. All right, so I'm wishing you all the best during this beautiful full moon. If you would like to incorporate a full moon ritual into your practice, there is going to be a full moon ritual uploaded at the Shadow Project. There's also a 7-day free trial that you can use to test it out and see if you like it and enjoy it. I hope to see you there, and I'm wishing you all the best during this full moon and beyond. Take care.